Welcome to AWE Nite Florence. There are 31 AWE nights all over the world. And there are some upcoming interesting AWE events like AWE US next year from May 31 to June 2 in Santa Clara. And then during the summer in August, there will be AWE Asia. And in October, AWE Europe again in Lisbon like this year. But of course, there is always on the AWE Live website where you can register, have the opportunity to attend amazing events like this one, and also to chat and network with other people in the field. So please register on AWE Live to be able to exploit these opportunities. So AWE EU 2022 has wrapped up, but now all the recordings are available on AWE Live and AWE YouTube channel for everyone to enjoy. And there are some interesting events coming on AWE Live, AWE Night New York City with an XR Prize Challenge that will take place on November 22nd at 5 p.m. EST and of course streamed AWE Live. AWE Night Northern XR that takes place on November 24 at 8 a.m. PST. And then there will be an Ask Me Anything webinar about the XR Prize Challenge with Orimbar and Nathan Bowser at December 8 at 9 a.m. PST. Then there will be the virtual augmented reality newsroom, placing the audience in the middle of the story, taking place on December 14 at 8 a.m. PST. Then there is AWE Live Academy, where there can be courses live you can attend and other opportunities to connect with the community, and you have more information on wxr.com. There is something about the HoloLens, a mixed reality masterclass, and something more for startups with the fundraising preparation. So this is everything about AWE and its opportunities.
Welcome everybody from AWE Nite Florence, coming to you live from Florence, Italy. After the great AWE Europe event, which was held in Lisbon only a few weeks ago, we are really happy to be able to present you another beautiful meeting of AWE Nite Florence. My name is CECILIA LASCIALFARI, co-founder of Area6.com, creative technologist, European journalist, organizer of AWE Nite Florence meetups, creator of Flying to the Metaverse through books and culture, and organizer of a new community called Future of Creativity in the XR World on art and artificial intelligence, which will be present very soon. One of the widespread rules in the academic world is to never criticize the work of previous scholars and always cite them as you develop new research. In 1493, Leonardo da Vinci wrote the Trattato de Estatica y Meccanica, which is a collection of drawings made up on 191 sheets. Scholars who have analyzed the Leonardo drawing have hypothesized that he was studying an alternating motion mechanical system, which was used to operate a robot that had the armor of a knight. Leonardo had drawn in the Madrid Codex a real mechanical treatise with mechanical drawings described in the smallest detail. His treatise on mechanics established a vocabulary for translating, understanding, and creating the language of machines. In reality, Leonardo never made this robot, but there are many studies of it. In the Codex Atlanticus drawing by Leonardo da Vinci, there is a sheet, the number 1021V, which has led scholars to hypothesize that Leonardo had made drawings studying an android robot. On this page is a drawing of a bent leg with a joint and a pin and a spring, and also that of a folding mechanical arm, as if Leonardo were studying a mechanical puppet or a life-size robot. On folio 579 there are 25 drawings representing studies of alternating motion, which put together suggest the functioning of an automaton. The complete model doesn't exist, but it's incredible to think of the evolution that has taken place in the engineering and mechanical sector from the time of Leonardo up to today, that we have gone from the heaviness of the iron armor of Leonardo's robot to the lightness of overalls and haptic gloves that target sensitivity in the virtual reality sector. I'm very excited to be here today with Guido Gioioso from Florence, Italy, Ashley Hoffman from Toronto, Canada, and Joe Michaels from San Francisco, California, as we present XR gloves, haptic, and beyond. Here with me is also my co-organizer of Nite Florence, Antony Vitillo. Hi, Antony. As always, it's great to have you here.
Hello, Cecilia. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure, biggest pleasure for me to be here with you all. I'm Tony. As written here, everyone knows in the community with Tony or with Scarred Ghost is nickname I have. And as a job, when I'm not here with Cecilia, helping her with this amazing AW Night, I do too many things. I have a blog about XR, and mostly I'm a developer. And lately I'm working a lot with virtual events, concerts, and festivals with a French company called From. But I don't want to get you too much bored about my life. We can chat about it if you want. In the chat on the right, please write a lot of stuff in the right. We like to chat with you all during the event. And now, Cecilia, is again your turn to speak.
Thank you, Antony. And now we welcome Guido Gioioso, co-founder of WEART. His speech is entitled Vision for Haptic Devices, Diffusion in the Next Years, and Peculiarities of WEART Technology and Application Scenarios.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Cecilia.
Here.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me today in this wonderful event. It's really a pleasure for me to be one of the speakers today. So I'm gonna talk about what Cecilia said. So I'm gonna share some slides. I don't want to bore you with too much images, but just to have a track of what we are talking about today. Just a little introduction of myself. I'm one of the co-founders of WEART. WEART is a company developing haptic devices, as you can imagine. I'm one of the co-founders. I have a technical background and a PhD in robotics and haptics, but today I'm the business leader of the company. So not speaking about me, speak about WEART. So what we do in WEART. WEART, of course, is a company developing wearable and portable haptic devices that are designed to be integrated into digital experiences in general. Of course, the main applications of these devices are related with extended reality, so VR, AR application, immersive digital experiences, but not only. We can integrate haptic devices also into applications that include the fruition of a standard multimedia content, like a video that can be augmented with tactile sensations thanks to this technology and product. A tactile layer that is added to the standard audio-video ones that we are used to in this kind of experience, and tactile sensations that are synchronized with the images and audio. But today we will focus on extended reality application, of course, and this is, of course, the main target, the main application we are targeting today with our product. And talking about extended reality, we know that this is a market that is getting a very big push, thanks to the increasing interest of big tech companies in the field. But we read about this extended reality market everywhere with the most famous word that we are reading everywhere, newspapers, social media, and so on. These kind of applications today are referred to as Metaverse. But we know that this is the buzzword today. But to be more specific, talking about extended reality applications, we like to define this new era or of hardware, software platforms and application with another word, that is spatial computing. What is spatial computing? Is a new computing era we are going towards. So if we look at the last decades of the technological say evolution of our digital experiences, we moved from experiences that were mainly living on screens, on our laptops or desktop machines. And these digital experiences moved from local and desktop devices to the web, to the network, to web-based applications where we are used to interact with digital contents and experiences, still living on screen. Then this kind of interaction moved to our pocket, and everything today is done on our mobile devices like smartphones and tablets and so on, which is the next step. The next step is having the user at the center of the experience and the digital contents floating, living around the user. And this is what we call spatial computing, a new computing era, a new way of interacting, living digital contents. And these contents are perceived by the user through wearable devices in general, wearable screens, headsets, glasses for the visual parts. But as we will see, not only the visual part will be involved in this kind of experience. In particular, there is a big difference of the spatial computing era with respect to all the previous digital era we lived so far. Because when the contents move from a 2D space to the 3D space, there is something that dramatically changed in the way we perceive and interact with the content. And it's this. When the content is 3D, the whole body of the user is involved in the interaction, not only the visual feedback. So we intrinsically involve our body when we want to interact with virtual objects and surfaces that are perceived as 3D shapes. And when I say body, I say arms, not all, I mean the whole body and specifically hands, our proprioceptive system. So basically what let us feel inside the environment and connect with a 3D object, with a 3D shape, using our motion and manipulation capabilities. In fact, if we look, I mean, I don't want you to read all these numbers and data, but if we look in general at the evolution of the extended reality market, we saw the first, let's say, 10 years of evolution, or let's say, okay, 10 years of evolution in which there was the focus of the whole industry toward the visual part of the experience. We were focusing on the development of robust, reliable, performant headsets that were able to provide a nice experience from the perception point of view for the user, natural, comfortable experiences, and also high quality contents. Now this part is done. We have such devices on the market, and the industry focus is moving toward the interaction of the user with these contents in these application scenarios. In fact, we know that all the new headsets integrate cameras and sensors and systems to read the movement of the user and movements of the whole body of the user, and in particular hands, giving to the user the possibility of grasping an object, touching a surface in the 3D, in the extended reality environment. And once I'm able to grasp an object and to manipulate it in the digital world, then which is the next need the user will have in this scenario? It will be to perceive this object, to touch it, to perceive this object, the physical properties of this object. Even if the object is digital, I will need to have this in my hands and feel it through my skin. And this is why we really believe that haptic interfaces will be the next generation of interfaces, human-machine interfaces, that will enable the new interaction with digital contents, enabling real-life interaction, because the objective here is to make the experience realistic and close to what we have when we interact with objects and surfaces in real life, perceiving the stiffness of that object and distinguishing between table and sponges, or surfaces, tactile properties of the material of that object, or the thermal behavior of that object. Exactly what we do in real life. To have this kind of new level of realism and engagement of the user in the experience. We strongly believe that to achieve this kind of new level of interaction, we need to have a technology not only to read movements of the user. Okay, we assume that this is done, and we know this is done by sensors reading the open-close movements of my fingers, the motion of my wrist, and so on, but also through a technology that can provide rich and accurate haptic feedback, talking about talking to my skin about the object or the material or the surface I'm interacting with. What we'd like to have here to explain this concept is like a parallel between what happened on our visual feedback and what is happening on the touch. We like to have this parallel. Let's say that for the visual feedback, we established a paradigm which is like the RGB combination of channels that can be exactly combined on a display to perceive from the visual point of view an image on a display. The same can be moved on the sense of touch, and we strongly believe in the combination of different sensations that are the RGB for the sense of touch. And in our development philosophy, this kind of 3 layers that can be combined on our skin are forces, texture-based vibrations, and thermal feedback. Forces to give to the user during the interaction the perception of a grasping force when interacting with an object, but also the consistency, the stiffness of the object itself. Texture-based vibrations to feel differences between different roughnesses of different materials or friction and so on. And the same applies for temperatures, because temperature is really because I can enable in the metaverse the perception of ice or fire or whatever, but not only. I can use thermal feedback to distinguish between different kind of materials, because the thermal behavior of a metal object is different from the one of a plastic or a wooden object. So this kind of technology we developed, and we integrated into a device that is the first device that we released in WEART, the first wearable device that we released less than 1 year ago, which is called Touch Diver. It's a glove. We call it glove in our family, but it's not exactly a glove. It's like a bracelet, and you can connect this bracelet up to 3 timbals in an easy and fast way, because we believe this kind of devices interfaces must be, let's say, transparent to the user. The user must forget it during the experience. And each timbal integrates sensors to read open-close movements of the fingers during the experience, but especially integrate the haptic core, giving to the user the perception of the physical properties of the object during the interaction. And again, the physical properties are a combination of different sensations. Of course, the Touch Diver and these kind of devices can be integrated in non-immersive digital experiences that are implemented on different screens, not only wearable screens like headsets. So, every time I speak about haptic in augmentation of VR, AR experiences, there is one question that always arises: which are the main applications in which this makes more sense? Where haptics really brings a lot of value in which kind of application scenario? And in this slide, I want to summarize some of these scenarios we are working on, but where we believe that haptic will bring the most value in the next years. We know that we start from the training, because the training is really the use case that, at least at business and enterprise level, in VR AR is the most common one. I mean, in most of the application scenarios, we have this kind of purpose of the experience, that is training in industrial scenarios, but also in medical field. And you can imagine the possibility provided by haptic devices to let a surgeon train on a specific surgical operation and feel, thanks to the haptic augmentation of that experience, feel the tissues of the simulated patients, the force is applying during a particular operation, or the depth in which the tool is operating during the surgical procedure, feeling the difference between the skin, the fat, the muscle, the bones of the patient. And this is really, we think this is really crucial in medical scenarios, because then in the real surgery room, surgeons will mainly rely on the sense of touch during the real operation. So it's really important to have the sense of touch also during the training of that kind of operation. But haptic that is accurate, rich, can open also a variety of other applications, not only training, but For instance, marketing experiences. Think about the potential of VR/AR in marketing experiences where the engagement of the user is everything. And haptic devices render tactile sensations, and the sense of touch is the sense of the emotions. So in marketing experiences, we can use haptic devices to create an emotional connection between the user and the product, the user and the brand, something that is way weaker if we only rely on visual and auditory feedback. And the same applies to buying experiences. Think about a virtual shop in which a user enters, virtually enters, and start interacting with products, feeling the products, trying the product, using it, manipulating it, touching it, as in a real shop, perceiving not only the aesthetics of that object, but also the physical consistency of a digital product before the purchase and before the actual production of that product. And the same can be translated on another kind of application in the collaborative design, of what we like to call virtual prototyping. So two designers working together on the design of the same object remotely from two different parts of the world, that while designing the object, not only select the color or the shape of the object, but also change the material and share remotely tactile properties of that material that is chosen for that particular part of the product. And when I say product, I also think about vehicles. There is a lot of impact, economic impact, in using VR/AR for virtual prototyping of vehicles, because this avoid the production of physical props, physical mock-ups of the vehicles, and everything can be done in VR/AR. And this is really cost-effective and also less time consuming than the production of mockups. But now, if we apply haptic in this scenario, what happens is that the user can evaluate the ergonomics of the vehicle, can feel the materials used, and interact with the vehicle in a real life way, as you will do when the vehicle will be ready and really on the market. The same let's say the same technology can bring value in another scenario, which is a little bit more, futuristic, let's say, but it's something we really think there is a lot of value, and it's the communication between remote users. Now we are having like a video call, okay? We are exchanging from different parts of the world, images and sound, but think about the possibility of touching one thing here on this part of the world and let people feel, my colleagues, my friend on another part of the world, share with me tactile sensations of an object type here or whatever, adding a layer of engagement and realism of the interaction and communication. And finally, entertainment and gaming. Of course, you know that this is an industry where the involvement, the engagement of the user is really crucial. All the marketing campaign of the last PlayStation was based on the haptic feedback of the controller. So we know that this is the next sense that will be involved in this kind of scenarios. And wearable haptic devices will enable this in immersive gaming experiences based on VR/AR platforms. So this is just an overview. I don't want to waste too much of your time, so I will be happy to reply to your questions or deepen some of the points that I touched during the presentation. And thank you for your attention.
Wow, Guido, that was an amazing speech. We were loving it, let's say, in the backstage, so thanks for it.
Thank you.
But the questions will come probably later during the debate. But now, let me invite on the stage Ashley Huffman, that is the co-founder of the Haptics Club podcast and executive of Titan Haptics. She's an amazing person besides all of that, and I'm happy she's here with us, and her speech is entitled, What You Need to Know About Haptics, the Past, the Present, and the Speculation. So Ashley, welcome here, and bye away.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We all absolutely adore you and appreciate that you give us the opportunity to share more about haptics. Let me jump right in. So yes, I'm going to cover everything you need to know about haptics, the past, the present, and speculation. I love good speculation. Just for the sake of a quick overview of who I am, why should you listen to me or consider listening to me? My name is Ashley Huffman. I've been called the Queen of Haptics, but I kind of self-proclaimed call myself a haptics Hype Woman, the founder of All Things Haptics newsletter, which is this monthly roundup of all the latest things happening in the haptic space, including tech, news, patents, resources, jobs, all those things. Also co-founder of Haptics Club Podcast, as you mentioned, which is a bi-weekly interview series on Spotify and Apple. We talk about the greatest challenges in the industry, the risks and opportunities, and interview some of the coolest people in the space. And I work at Titan Haptics in marketing, and I work in the area of VR, AR, gaming, and wearables. That's my happy place. And Titan develops advanced haptic motors for smartphones, consoles, and touchscreens. Now this is the face I get, and I'm sure a lot of you get this too. If you work in tech, people just sometimes don't know what haptics are. And I know a lot of the smartest people are listening. Everyone here is well-versed in haptics, but for anyone who's new and just kind of wants to get up to speed, haptics is a technology that can create experiences using touch, by applying force, vibrations, and motions to a user. And I'll cover some of the use cases, and you've heard some already, but some key points. It unlocks a device to human communication, which can be silent. Many folks think of the rumbling of their gaming controller, also the buzzing alerts of their phone, which I refer to as like a human dog whistle of haptics. And I'm team no sound, so like pure haptics for my smartphone. It also unlocks, as Guido mentioned, some really powerful immersive experiences, talking about texture and storytelling. And of course, haptics it's both a science as it is an art form. You have to understand the human body. You have to understand how it works. You have to understand what it likes, and you have to understand what it doesn't like. And there's a lot of moving variables there. And sometimes that means like tricking someone into believing they're feeling something when they're not. And of course, CAT's one of my favorite haptic devices. Kicking off kind of like old school. This is a classic photo you may recognize from NASA labs from back in the 1980s, showing off some of the latest tech, their badass VR headset. You've got the interface gloves. And funny enough, if you Google VR headsets and gloves, the tech you see will actually look kind of close to this, which is really, really cool. But the tech on the inside, of course, has changed drastically, like monumentally. The experience is far greater, and at the same time, it's in the hands of consumers and not locked behind doors. Haptics, on the other hand, my little snail friend here, is really the opposite, or mostly the opposite. The tech on the outside has changed quite significantly in the form factor, but the haptics tech, the motors on the inside, haven't really changed in the last 50 years. So the same tech you've had in all your mobile phones and all your gaming controllers is still around and still being used, and it's based on the same mechanisms and principles. And the majority of consumer tech products have these simple motors that either spin or vibrate. In terms of where you can find haptics, it's everywhere. I could create a huge list and talk this whole 15 minutes about all the different haptics devices, but it's in 99% of mobile phones, it's in gaming controllers, handheld games, tablets, headsets, mice, blasters, headphones, cars, and of course my favorite arcade game, which is Time Crisis. So the industry has been advancing but not unadvancing, which is really cool. So there's not super new tech. We're using the same kind of motors, but it's still growing. So let's talk about that. So despite this kind of like lack of innovation, as you might want to call it, the haptics industry is huge, like money talks. The market is already in the billions. In 2021, it was at $9.2 billion US, and it's projected to reach 23.8 billion by 2030. So it's pretty serious. But like most industries, haptics faces something that emerging technologies do, similar to the whole chicken and the egg situation for video when it first came out, and audio. So haptics raises the bar of capabilities, and it can grow the capabilities, of course, of hardware. At the same time, it makes content makers want to make really cool content, and then more peripheral makers will want to make more advanced tech. So you can kind of see how it's definitely like a chicken and the egg situation. But it's a great reminder at the same time that when you're considering new tech, this is just kind of the way it is. And in terms of kind of where it stems from, similarly, a lot of the tech ideas are coming from places like sci-fi books. They're coming from movies. Ready Player One is quoted a lot in terms of haptics, and sorry if anyone's using that in their slides, but that really is one that kind of is a vision of the future that people want to get to. It's not real, at least not all of it yet. And academia is mentioned as well. And academia is a huge driving force of haptics, mind the pun. When you put a room full of the smartest people who have cash to spend on the latest tech, you get crazy things. So if you look at tech papers from back from 2000, 2006 area, like the tech you see them playing with, tinkering, inventing is actually the tech you see them rolling out today, which is really interesting. And same thing, the academia is working on crazy stuff right now. You'll see that they're using things like energy from the user instead of batteries to power kind of haptic experiences, chemical wristbands that you can use to give haptic effects like tingling and heat and cold. So you can imagine how beneficial this kind of thing is for training. How about the haptics market today? Thanks to new tech announcements, Quest Pro, for example, there's a lot of buzz, really cool, interesting feedback that's saying people love the controllers the most out of the whole experience. It's the most enchanting part, which is very interesting because it's a really crazy, cool, futuristic headset. And this is really a testament to the fact that manufacturers are finding new ways to use existing motor technologies and inventing different ways to use it. In this case of the Quest Pro, it's using multiple actuators in one controller, which is something that's really just starting to roll out into industry. And if you look at smartphones as a benchmark as well, Apple has a similar motor to what you find in your phone if you're an Android user. And it really is just utilizing new materials, crazy ways to use kind of like the same technology, just advanced in ways like advanced materials, expensive materials that just make it better. That's the benchmark. So this leaves a huge opportunity for new technology in the haptic motor space, which is a coincidence that I'm here. In terms of new innovation, my company, Titan Haptics, has invented a brand new type of haptic motor, completely different than what's on the market currently. It works like a maglev train, as you can kind of see here, floating with that channel. It has one moving part. It utilizes magnetic force instead of springs, and it's capable of wideband frequency, which some people call HD haptics, haptic effects. And in haptic speak, if you're in like a meeting, any one of my kind of BD meetings, you'll hear it buzzes like a mobile phone, like buzz, the high pitch. Also, it rumbles like a gaming controller, like the brrr. But is it just new tech that's going to get us ahead of the game? If we go back to chicken and the egg, that's not the case. It's really a future based on a lot of people working together. It's advanced motors, it's cool consumer tech, it's badass designs, it's amazing visuals, it's awesome audio, and it's really good haptic designers. And everything needs to really work together. And that's a big part of the learnings that I've had along the way. And importantly, it's about the industry coming together and not building moats as much as possible so that we can learn from each other. And the whole rising tide helps all ships is like really critical in haptics, just as it is in XR as it grows. These are some resources I'd recommend. You can check out hapticlabs.io. It'll help you learn about haptic design in a really simplified manner. They've got some amazing GIFs. It's a great onboarding tool. Haptics Industry Forum is an organization that creates standards and sets kind of common understandings and benchmarks in the space. There are books you can read that are like not quite as technical that can help you on board to things. This is XR Implementation Guide. And of course, AWE has been a huge cheerleader for haptics. They continue to create events like this. They allow haptics to be a really huge conversation at events. So thanks to AWE for continuing to really help push haptics. It's an important industry. There's my newsletter. It'd be a fail if I don't mention that. So haptics.substack, so you can learn about new products and papers and all those fun things. And the podcast, the Haptics Club podcast, is one where you could just listen to challenges other people are having in the industry. Some of the leading players, Fortune 500 companies, academics that have been around for 50 years since the start of the industry, and just challenges. And of course, my company, it's in our best interest to help you create groundbreaking experiences for your customers, life-changing experiences. So I would say reach out and talk. But let's go back to the kind of the future and immediate opportunities. In terms of one of the biggest one, the fastest growth one in particular, that would be XR and VR. This isn't me just saying that. This is industry analysts are looking at it. I think that VR is amazing technology, but there's kind of some fundamental flaws of it because there's amazing visuals, there's amazing touch, but at the same time, there's a lack of this realism in the touch. So it's all of our senses haven't been captured within this technology yet. So it leaves a great opportunity, which the folks on this panel are working towards, which is amazing. And of course, haptics are critical for things like training, industry. If it doesn't feel real, that really does have an impact on the value for the user. Another really big, this is the strongest growing industry in haptics, which is automotive. We're seeing commitments, of course, with EV cars, also goals towards autonomous cars. And really, that's driving the industry in terms of creating virtual reality headsets for sales training, optimizing manufacturing for processes using AR. But fundamentally, this vehicle cockpit is turning into a moving entertainment center. And I think that is fundamentally going to be where AR maybe provides the most value. VR provides the most value because you're just this entertainment center on wheels, and there's like so much you could do. If you've been to a movie with haptic seats and it's fully immersive 3D audio and you've got this 3D video, like it truly is magic. So let's recap. We know haptics is important and the industry is $1 billion market. We know where to look to understand trends and best practices. We know the areas of growth like XR and automotive. And you can reach out to me if you have questions about haptics, you want to integrate haptics into your project. But let's dive into that super speculation zone. Let's go way future forward. And I believe that the future of haptics is unspectacular. And rarely do you see events like this and panels like this on simple things like just basic audio. Events like this are about novel things, about ways that people are paving new paths, like bleeding edge technologies. And so when something becomes unspectacular, it's commoditized, it's expected, it's the norm. And that's what needs to happen with haptics. That's what's going to happen with haptics. So that, I believe, is the future of haptics. Thank you so much. If you want to get a hold of me, of course, here's my email.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you so much, Cecilia.
Thank you, Ashley. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Joe Michaels, Chief Revenue Officer Haptics. His speech is entitled "The Importance and Future of Realistic Touch in the Enterprise and Industrial Metaverse." Hi, Joe.
Hello. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Cecilia, just give me a nod when you say yes. You hear me okay? Good. Great. Awesome. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is a great privilege to join you today. It's not easy to follow Guido and Ashley, two of the great people in the haptics field, but it's a pleasure to be on the same stage with them. Thank you very much. So I'm going to check to see if this works. Does that give you? No, it makes it really little, doesn't it? Okay, so I am going to go back to this and hopefully, okay, hang on one second. I just want to, okay, I'm just going to share it like so. And I'm really excited to give you my take on the same topics that you've heard from Guido and Ashley. I was fascinated to hear Ashley's conclusion that the ultimate goal for haptics is to become I forget the exact word she used, but unremarkable, expected. That is a really cool way to look at it. I think of it almost in the exact opposite. I want haptics to continue to push the boundaries. So let's talk about realistic touch in the enterprise and the industrial metaverse. That's what this is all about for me. And if you would like to follow me on social media, you can follow me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and also follow HaptX. Let's make sure this works. Okay, so for us, it is all about the magic of touch. Touch is something that we learn and enjoy from the very beginning of our lives. It is a magical sense that that we use to understand what's real, what's around us, and who we're connected to. And so for us at HaptX, we think a lot about the sensory richness of real life and how touch plays into that. And what we've learned over the years is that you can and should apply that simulation of touch feedback to our work lives, to our careers, to the fact that that as you grow and as you become employed, touch takes on a whole new dimension. It's all about your skills and how you apply your sense of touch to your job. And so really the way that you use your hands, the way that you feel the world and the objects and the people around you is what distinguishes the talented and skilled workers from those who aren't so much. And how you use your hands, the things that you feel and touch, that becomes really the difference. And so what 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 we like to think about is how to simulate touch in a way that you can do your job better. In some cases, the way that you touch is the difference between life and death. And it whether that's in medicine or keeping people safe or in a military context, touch is sometimes everything. And so we think a lot about how to simulate it in a way that's beneficial. Let me show you a fascinating video. I hope you haven't seen this because I think you'll love it. This is the best illustration I've ever seen that touch really matters. So this was an experiment in Sweden where the researcher asks the subject to perform a simple physical task, light a match. I hope you noticed that took about 2 or 3 seconds. And now they're going to ask her to do the same thing, but they're going to remove her sense of touch. Close your eyes if you don't like needles. This is a needle where they anesthetize her hand, so she has all of her muscular capabilities. She has certainly all of her other senses, her visuals, but she's going to perform the same task without the sense of touch. And I just want you to watch how it goes. So remarkably, she is able to do it, but look how much harder it was for her without that sense of touch. That is how much touch matters in the things that we do every day. Now, let me change gears for a minute and show you a little experiment that I did recently. I searched enterprise metaverse on Google and I wanted to see what images came up. And let me show you some of the top results. And I want you to take a look at the theme here. Do you notice that in every single one of these images, the depiction of the metaverse for enterprise, every single one of them has not just the visuals but touch. That's what people dream of and expect when they think of the metaverse and they think of XR for enterprise. It is touch enabled. But let's talk very realistically about interaction in the metaverse today. Okay, typically you either use a controller to interact in the metaverse. That's like the mouse of VR, right? That's great for games and pointing and clicking, but everything around you doesn't feel realistic. It feels like a piece of cold plastic. Um, then there's hand tracking, an increasingly popular form of interaction and input in the metaverse. Great way to see your hands. Brings your hands into the space. You can see their pose. The tracking's getting pretty good, but there are all kinds of problems. The worst problem is if you want to actually interact with anything, everything feels like nothing. And that's disappointing to say the least. So something else. People are using physical props, and the most innovative companies are bringing wearables into the picture to simulate touch, and that's what I want to talk about. Before I get too deep into what haptX is all about, I just want to go through our point of view on touch. You heard two really good talks before mine about touch, and let me do what Ashley did so well and talk about how touch is a collection of sensations using the animals that let me see, I guess, yeah, let's start here. I'll use my own animals the way Ashley so cleverly brings animals into her presentation. So touch is about 5 different modalities. It's about 5 different elements. The tactile feedback is the displacement of your skin when it contacts an object. And that is the single most important modality of touch. It's present in almost every touch interaction that we have. And it's what you feel when you pick up a hedgehog, as someone is doing here. Force feedback is the resistance or the movement of your skin when it's coming in contact with something, and it enables you to feel the shape or size of an object, its location, and it's what's happening when you high five a dog. That's force feedback. And vibration is when the contact of your fingerprints hits an object with texture, and the fingerprints vibrate, and you feel that sound wave of vibration in your fingerprints, and you can learn about texture and rumble, and that's what the cat is feeling when, or what you're feeling on a cat tongue when it's rough. Thermal, as you've heard from our speakers, is the perception of heat flux. It's hot, it's cold, it's everything in between, and it's what tells you that the tummy of this cute little puppy is warm. And then pain is the detection that something very wrong is happening. That it's itch, it's danger, and it's what you feel in a bee sting. So the way that we feel touch, and I love to get into the science of this because I just find it so fascinating, is we have all these touch receptors beneath the surface of our skin. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of these different types of corpuscles and discs that pick up different kinds of sensations, and we feel them to varying degrees across our body. And so haptics, the topic we're here to talk about today, is the simulation of touch, and it's not just vibration. You've heard that from the other panelists. I'll give you my take on this. For 45 years, when you look at products that have incorporated touch feedback, all you've had is vibration. It's simple, it's cheap, it's easy to produce, from arcade cabinets to devices and phones. It's been all about vibration, but vibration is limited. It can only symbolize touch and contact. It can barely touch the realism that we're often looking for in realistic touch feedback, and haptic gloves are able to take you to that next level. So I'll speak very briefly about HaptX, the company I work for. We've been around for a decade, and we created this microfluidic smart textile, this silicone material you see here, and there are actuators that are powered by air, compressed air, that rise and fall and press into your skin, and they can reach all the different levels of those mechanoreceptors under your skin, and they can approach or even meet the 2-point threshold of perception on your skin. So it's a very unique and powerful way to deliver realistic touch. And let me make sure I have that right. Good. And so what we use that technology, the microfluidic technology, in our new product that we're thrilled to introduce a few weeks ago, haptX Gloves G1. And this is the first product really meant for large-scale deployments in enterprise companies because of its realism, because of its mobility, because of its low cost. It's all about microfluidics. So we create this compressed air in a device that's on your back, and that compressed air travels through this tether, and it moves its way into the gloves, and it powers the individual actuators. There are hundreds of those actuators inside the gloves, and those actuators have the incredible capability of displacing your skin, pushing into and moving your skin. So when you are pressing a virtual object and you want it to feel like a physical one, that tactile feedback is precise and realistic. Also, the force feedback, which you've heard about, is super important. So we can stop your fingers from moving when you want to feel the exact correct shape of an object. And motion tracking is super important. Realistic sub-millimeter motion tracking tells you where your fingers are in space. And it all comes together in this package, haptX Gloves G1. We're so proud of it. It's something that that is now in a form factor that enterprises can use. It's a thrill for us after 10 years of development to get here. I do want to say one more thing. And that's the importance of collaboration. I know I'm probably running short on time, so I'll just say the importance of collaboration. Today in VR, when we're collaborating, we don't have touch feedback. So we do a lot of waving at each other. You know, hi, how are you? Good to see you. But that's all you're doing is seeing people. And with HaptX, we're all about enabling haptic collaboration, so you can feel what everyone around you is feeling, the same objects at the same time. So we're thrilled about that. And I should always say that haptics can be used for robotics. This was a funny moment where Jeff Bezos wore our gloves to control a robot, and he looked a little bit like a comic book supervillain. So we enjoyed seeing this GIF on the internet. One more thing, we're delighted to share that we finally have a price after, you know, reports on the internet said that our old gloves cost in the tens of thousands of dollars, which we never disputed. We're proud to say that for now, and at this point, we can sell our gloves as low as $4,500 per pair, plus a subscription. And I'd be delighted to talk to anyone who wants to learn more about that. So it's a very exciting time in the haptic space. And just remember, please, that touch really does matter, especially in the enterprise. So don't use controllers when you can help it. Don't settle for them. You know, look to wearables that really enable you to get realism and to collaborate. And thank you. That would be great to take questions and debate with the excellent Tony and my fellow panelists.
So thanks, Joe, for this very interesting talk about haptics. And great that I see animals also in your presentation. And since the haptics, now we have the cost. I mean, remember that Christmas is near, so if you don't know what to give to me, I always accept a pair of HaptX gloves. So that's it. So I invite back to the stage all the speakers so we can have a very short debate in the 10 minutes that we have. So you were all amazing, your presentations. So I will have thousands of questions, but let's keep this short. I will want to start a bit with Ashley. You know, you told about the fact that the innovation are going a bit slowly on some part of the haptic motors, etc. But I was also seeing that anyway, at least in Excel, there is a growing interest for haptics, haptic systems in general, and also in consumer devices. Like I was seeing that the Pico 4 like has stronger haptics, also the PSVR 2, the Quest Pro, etc. So there is anyway some growing interest. I want to see if you're seeing a good trend anyway happening in the short term in these devices, and if it will lead to something, in your opinion, more in the long term.
Yeah, for sure. I think the devices that are out right now, we're seeing them, like manufacturers create such like scrappy implementations using multi-motors to create many effects. And I think that's been pushing the industry forward. The Quest Pro I mentioned is one example. PSVR is another example where they have amazing haptics in the controller, multi-haptics, and they're also including haptics in the headset, both as a vibration immersion tool, but also as a way to help things like nausea. So I think there's a lot of people trying to push this forward. A lot of larger companies understand the value of haptics and the fact that it creates some quality above and beyond what other companies are doing, other competitors are doing. So I think it's going to continue to push forward, but it's going to take a lot of like scrappy implementations before people start utilizing more advanced technologies. You know, we can get the haptics technology in a consumer device. You know, that would excite me a lot.
Great. I want to ask you instead, Guido, on the other side, since you are also on the creating these fantastic fingertips that give three types of haptic sensations. So you work both with thermal haptics, with pressure, with vibration, and you are in a way a startup. You're not a huge company. So I want to maybe if you can describe what is the difficulties on creating such a haptic device, in case someone is more interested also on the practical part of this.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony, for the nice question. Because it's really nice for me to tell this story, because we started in I think 2017, 2018. The technology, the core technology was already there. the haptic core that today we integrate in our product. But then there was a number of challenges that we faced in bringing a real product on the market and building a product around this technological core. And these challenges mainly are related with ergonomics of the object, because when you build a wearable device, you really need to care about the user experience. So the wearability aspects, the ergonomics, the weight, the lightness of the object, because we really think that in order to have a real spread of this kind of devices, the user experience is crucial, because technology, of course, must be there. But in our opinion, the wearable devices like this must be lightweight, both for the final users, in terms of wearing time and calibration and weight, also physical weight, but also for the integrators, for the people that integrate these devices, developers that integrate these devices into applications. So 50% of our product is not hardware, it's software. So one of the other challenges was to create a platform that enable a natural, an easy and fast way to add tactile sensations to a Unity or Unreal project, for instance, or any kind of 3D experience. And finally, if we talk about bringing something like this to the market, then there are challenges related with the ecosystem and content creation we are working on, with relationship and so on. And we really think that, as Ash said, being a community, a cohesive community around these kind of products, everyone with their peculiarities and specific features, this will really help us to really bring this revolution into the digital world.
That's great, and it's very interesting to hear your opinion, both you and Ash, about, let's say, the making of a haptics device. But now, since our friend Joe is a Chief Revenue Officer, I'm also interested in the last part. I mean, how do we sell then the haptics? Because sometimes, people think about VR, it's easy that they think about the headset, but you have to go to like enterprise companies and to sell a device that costs anyway around $5,000 and ask them and show them what is the value. So how is difficult to sell these devices in the enterprise and also in the consumer world?
Yes. Fortunately, when you have a product that is as exciting and ambitious and that gives such a, that has such a great reputation as a haptic glove, it's not really that hard to sell. I'll be honest. It is a very easy sell. People who try them love them. Word spread. So that is it has been very easy to sell them. But you bring up a good point. I mean, the goal here is scale. I mean, we don't just want to sell a few of the gloves. We wanted to make this something that's a natural part of everyone's industry experience. And so the challenges really tend to be that, you have to try to get people's hands in it, and there are only so many gloves to go around and so many trade show events around the world. So that's a challenge, is getting out to as many people as we can, and we try to go to every event that we can get to, and we give lots of demos. So come find us at AWE, in every location, and find us at CES and the ITSEC military trade show in Florida, everywhere. And the other tricky thing is timing. I mean, people want the best technology today, and they don't want to wait. And hardware is difficult; it takes time. And so we've been 10 years at work on this product, and we finally have it ready, and we'll be shipping it next year. So so we appreciate people's patience, and we're excited to start distributing this worldwide.
Okay, so time is almost up. So just want to ask one last question to one of you. Just thinking also about a bit of the future. So since Joe, you're already speaking with me, I want to start with you and ask, we all love what HaptX is doing, especially, that the possibility of feeling touch on all the different parts of the hands. But the device, of course, because the technology has to grow, is still a bit bulky and expensive. When do you think something like this can be in the hands of the consumers? When the tech can be ready? I mean, is the usual 5 to 10 years that everyone forecasts for every technology? Do you have some insights to give us about this?
Yes. We know how to make a product that consumers can afford and that is in a form factor that consumers can use. But it, as I said before, it takes time, and it will take a few more generations of our product to get there. So I suspect, you know, it will be several years before this is not an enterprise. Ours is not an enterprise product. It's a consumer level product. The thing I also quickly want to say is we're dreaming way beyond just the hands. From the beginning, we thought about the full body, and people have always said that's a 20-25 year problem. It's going to come a lot sooner than that if we keep up our progress and our good work.
Okay, so I can't wait for that moment to happen, really. And talking about the peculiarity of systems and when they can become mainstream, I want to ask Guido one thing, because if Joe's peculiarity of his gloves is really the texture, what I love of yours is the temperature feeling. So, but it's something that is rarely employed in haptic devices in this moment. There are some other companies like I think Tagway that are using it, but there's like small niches. I want to ask you, why do you think this happens, and when do you imagine, I don't know, the Quest 10 with also possibility of feeling the cold and the heat in the hands?
So, yeah, you're right. I mean, sometimes everyone that try our demo, for instance, or our experience, they really like, you know, it's unexpected, the thermal feedback. Maybe you expect from an electronic device, you expect that it becomes hot, but not cold, for sure. Yeah. And really, this is the typical wow effect we have in every demo, and because this really brings, you know, a new level of engagement and makes the experience really also emotionally engaging. But a thing that is important is that is to understand that temperature works together with texture, feeling, with vibrations to give the perception of a virtual material, because virtual materials don't differ between each other only for roughness or friction features, but also for the thermal behavior. If you want to feel a metal part or a plastic or a wooden part, it's really different from the thermal point of view. And so for me, for us, the most important use cases for this part of the technology are related with perception of products, so marketing applications, buying experiences in XR, and also virtual prototyping. So I think these will be the main use cases, and I really believe that today we are working with enterprises on these use cases, so with with companies that, for instance, are designing retail in-store experiences based on this kind of interaction. But soon this will be, I mean, soon with the same roadmap that Joe depicted for the consumer products. This will be part of our an e-commerce experience in our houses.
Amazing, and I want to end with Ash that also began this debate. So we talked about really the future. I mean, we see that Guido and Joe are really going to hope to build to something that will be also consumer ready in some years. So I want to see you really, if we can, to dream about the future really of haptics long term in general, between all the companies on the consumer side. I mean, like in 15, 20 years, etc. What you can dream about in a very long time span about haptics and XR?
Oh, I love that question, because I think there's so much that can be done. And if you look back at the inspiration behind a lot of these things, it's Neil Stephenson, it's books that are talking about far out ways of thinking, of utilizing haptics that don't need any physical hardware or software. It's done by kind of like hacking your brain. So really there's like a lot of potential in terms of future forward. But I think in the immediate, it's really just communities coming together, companies coming together to do what they're best at, and supporting each other to create amazing experience for consumers. Because at the end of the day, no matter what product it is, whatever gaming, peripheral, technology for industry, for training, it all has to work together and make sense and be enchanting. And haptics is never going to shouldn't be the star of the show. It's this, it's just the addition of the sense that really helps make everything else just become immersive, and you can get lost and you're really in the matrix finally. And I think a lot of people are speculative of hand tracking and the future needing haptics, but I would just say on that note, if you look at a company like Ultraleap, who's highly invested in headsets, in utilizing hand-free experiences, part of their portfolio, part of their vision is mid-air haptics. So it's like, no matter where you go in terms of the future of XR, haptics is going to be a critical part of it. Big companies are leading their future and putting money towards ensuring that this happens because they know it's a critical element of everything that's to come. So I said it's going to be, unremarkable, but I think it's going to take a long time to get there. Just like how you assume every movie has audio, it has talking, it has a soundtrack, and if it doesn't, it's kind of awkward. So I think that's the vision I want to get to. In the meantime, I'm going to work to create really kick-ass experiences and enjoy demos like these guys have, like absolutely enchanting demos, and everyone needs to check them out for sure.
Okay, so that's cool. We are already late 5 minutes, but it was so interesting listening to all of you speaking. That was a very interesting panel and event. So personally, thank you all three for joining us at this AW Nite Florence. And thanks also all the audience. Now I hope to bring on stage Cecilia for the final goodbye to everyone. Cecilia?
Thank you, Guido. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Joe. Thank you all for being here. AWE USA 2023, taking place in Santa Clara, California, May 31 and 1 and 2 June, primarily as in a person conference and also with an online element on AWE Live. See you soon at the AWE USA 2023 and see you soon at the next AWE Nite Florence event in January 2023. Happy Christmas holiday and bye-bye. Bye-bye.